Hey guys, this is Media Madness. We are here for our 15th show, and we have a special guest today, the creator of Wolfblood. Me and Jay love this show, and as Americans, we love this show, and we want Americans to know more about the show, and it's just a great supernatural show. So can you introduce yourself? Debbie Moon, the creator of Wolfblood.
Hi there, I'm Debbie Moon. As I said, I am the creator of Wolfblood. I'm a British television writer. And Wolfblood has been my first sort of major show, and it's now showing on Disney in many countries around the world. I think in about 40 countries now, and has been a pretty big hit. That's me in a nutshell, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we're going to just talk about Wolfblood for this whole show. We're excited. We're going to talk about the writing of Wolfblood, you know, how it's, I guess, perceived in America also. So we're going to talk about all that. So I'm going to start with Jay, actually. We're going to get these questions started. So we're going to go off with Jay asks 2 questions, I'll ask 2 questions. And in the comments below, if you guys want to ask questions for Debbie Moon about the show, try not to talk about Season 3, but Season 1 and 2, please ask us. And by the end of the show, leave about 10 minutes for your questions. So, Jay, get started.
Okay, I'm a big mythological beast, I guess you can say. Like, I love mythology, all kinds, and you have a unique mythology for your for Wolfblood. Where did that come from? Did you draw from any particular source, or was it like all just what you created?
A lot. Mostly it was. We were kind of making it up as we went along. I mean, I really wanted to do a werewolf story that was not a horror story, if you like, that was about transformation being a good thing, a positive thing, and something that was part of people rather than being this horrible curse that's been visited on them in some way. So that was kind of my starting point for the show. When we were talking about the development of it at CBBC, we always talked about it as being really a superhero show and not a horror story at all. That was the tone we were going for. So because of that, we were able to just put together any elements of any legends that we wanted. So we kept the transformation at full moon, but we also invented our own idea of the dark moon when there is no moon, and all our Wolfbloods become very sleepy and lethargic for a night, which was quite a fun addition to that. We didn't go with things like them being allergic to silver. The major transformation of the show, of course, is that they can transform when they like, which for me gets over the big narrative problem of Wolfblood stories, which is it only happens once a month. So once you've got them able to transform at will, and sometimes, you know, when they don't want to, if they get angry, if they get scared, they will transform without wanting to. Obviously, the dramatic possibilities there are a lot greater. So it was very much a question of what we wanted to take from all kinds of different mythologies to create our own new mythology.
I really like it. The way it all came together and the way it ties into nature and the difference between nature and what we have become as a society with technology and everything, especially with the Eolus. I really love that aspect of it too.
Yeah, we wanted very much for it to be a show about nature, about the countryside. A lot of CBBC shows are set in towns, set in cities even, and feel very urban. And one of the things that attracted them about the show when I went to them with the idea was that it was a very countryside-based show, a very natural show. Of course, it's kind of a nightmare because we film in a part of the country that's actually quite cold and where it rains a lot. So the poor cast are out there in the middle of the night, freezing to death. But it really adds something to the show that I think a lot of other children's shows really don't have, that sense of nature. And as you said, that sort of conflict, but that kind of pull between being very much modern and of the technological world, but also respecting nature, respecting sort of older ways, which is something that I'm very much interested in.
So I want to ask, since we're talking about kids shows, and I don't know if I consider Wolfblood a kid show, just because I think it's an all-ages show, because I think families can enjoy it, kids can really enjoy it. So how do you think all these ages can connect to the show?
It's interesting, really, yeah, because the age range for CBBC is actually 8 to 12-year-olds. Obviously, I know the Disney Channel age range is slightly older than that. And yet I'm always getting contacted by people who are saying, I'm 18, I'm 25, I'm older than that even, but I really like Wolfblood. So I think the werewolf mythology helps. There are a lot of people out there who just enjoy the story of the werewolf. But I think it kind of touches on a lot of themes that are very universal about who you are, how you fit into society, where you fit when you're sort of pulled between the two halves of yourself, being wolf-blood and human in this case, but you take that as a metaphor for almost anything. And of course the idea of
childhood.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Adult childhood, yeah.
Yes, very much so. There's a lot in the show, and I'm not going to talk about season 3 in detail, but as we go into season 3, we're very much talking about that transition of being an older teenager, of thinking about leaving school, of becoming an adult. So it's very much about growing up for us at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of things in there that are very universal for people of any age, and of course we all remember what it was like to be a teenager, to feel a little outside, to feel a little confused about ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that is a good way to connect to it. And yeah, I just think all these characters just have such a defined character, which is great. My other question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jay again, is how do you think Americans can relate to the show? Because me and Jay, we are Americans. We both love this show. But even though there's a lot of British references, we can still relate to it. How do you think other countries relate to it?
Yeah, it surprised me, I think, how it's been embraced across the world. I mean, it kind of started off in Europe, and you can understand how it might go down well in countries like Germany, where obviously the werewolf legend is very strong, but it seems to have been embraced, all around the world. I suppose the Americans are very much aware of that tradition of British horror, the Hammer horror movie, and the haunted house in the hills and whatever. So I think it kind of plays into that sort of knowledge of the British horror tradition, without being a horror show as such. And it is a very British show. I mean, we don't apologise for that. It's very much about what it's like to be a British teenager. But again, it has these universal elements, I think, that make it possible for the show to travel around the world.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to kind of peer into British culture as an American. That's what I kind of like about the show. So I'm going to pass it on to Jay now.
Okay.
Just wanted to touch on the age thing. Kat is 20 and I'm 37, and we both enjoy the show. So there's a huge age gap right there. It's a 17-year age gap between us, and we're both fans of the show. So it's definitely reached beyond the 12-year mark.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, very much so. I mean, it's always been quite a mature show compared to other CBBC shows, I think, and that was quite deliberate. They wanted to make something that almost bridged the edge of their age range and reached out to teenagers who had perhaps stopped watching the channel. So that was part of the planning, I think. And in a way, it was because I didn't have that much experience with children's shows, so I kind of wrote the show I wanted to see, even at my age. And just trying to make it suitable for children. So I wasn't going into it thinking, I'm writing for children, I must write in this way, I must write in that way. It was very much, this is a show I would have liked when I was a kid, and now, to a certain extent.
Cool. You could definitely tell that in the writing, definitely, because there's so much thickness to the mythology and just the stories in general.
Yeah, that's how Kat sold it to me. She's like, it has a really cool mythology to it, and she knows I'm a mythology buff, so I went for it.
Yeah. So, go on, Jay.
All right. Now, you're a British writer for a British TV show, and over there, your series usually have shorter numbers. Like, they're usually around the 13 episode mark. In America, we normally go like 22 episodes per season. Do you think that would be like a challenge for you as a writer to come up with 22 episodes per year? And do you find it easier and better for your show in particular to be 13 episode arcs?
I suppose 13 is usually the longest run that we do over here in Britain. So we are very much, you grow up thinking in those terms. But then, of course, we're watching so much American television these days, we are becoming used to those longer arcs as well. I think it would change the show in certain ways. I suppose we'd be able to go into more depth, perhaps, about things if we had 22 episodes to cover a year in our characters' lives than 13. But I mean, I think the 13 works very well for us because it gives us this very tight arc. It enables us to set things in motion at the beginning of the series and then to keep ratcheting up the tension. And I think it must be much more difficult when you're writing 22 episodes to keep that tension running all the way through the series.
Yeah, in American shows, you notice that a lot. Like, there's sometimes there's a lot of filler episodes. With the 13 episodes, it's definitely much a tighter show. Like, Teen Wolf is a great example, just because they're both werewolf shows. Their American TV show, they had the 22 episodes. They're like, we're splitting it into two arcs because it's too many episodes. You can't do it. So, yeah, American TV shows, I think, have sometimes a hard time making it tight this season with so many episodes.
I think so.
Well, what else? What other question do you have, Jay?
I also want to ask. You mentioned about the cast being into it. Do you get once you went into it with an idea? Did you reshape any of your initial concept for the characters after meeting and working with the cast for a while? Like, did any of their personalities bleed into your writing for those characters?
I'm not sure their personalities did. I think what was brilliant about certainly coming into the second season, of course, when we'd seen them work on the first season, was that we knew that they could do anything we asked of them. You know, sometimes when you're working with younger actors, you do tend to underestimate how good they are, and you think, well, we can't ask them to do this big emotional scene; they won't be able to pull it off, or whatever. But I think coming off of the first season, we had a great deal of confidence in our actors. We knew that they could do anything we asked of them. They could do big emotional scenes. So certainly in the second season, I think we managed to dig more into the characters and more into the emotional arcs, particularly for Maddie and Rydian. And the other thing we found out was that they have a lot of interesting talents that we managed to work in. So the fact that Shannon starts singing at a major event in one of the season 2 episodes came about because we found out that Louisa had a good singing voice, so we thought, well, we'll use it, you know. So we were able to pick up on things like that, I think, when you know your actors more. And of course, there were things like writing the dialogue in their voice and things when you start to get a sense of who the actor is. But yeah, it was more a question of expanding the characters, I think, really, than changing anything.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. Yeah, and I loved the whole singing thing with Shannon in season 2. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, so let's dig into the characters a little bit more. One thing I want to applaud to is the Yana, Rydian, and Maddie relationship. It wasn't a love triangle, and they end up becoming really good friends. And I loved how that friendship formed. Can you explain how you escaped the love triangle trope? I think it's the best I've ever seen on television, just to say, because there's so many supernatural TV shows that just fall into that love triangle trope, but these three characters became friends, and I love that. So how did you end up not falling into that trope?
It was very deliberate. We felt that we knew we needed a new character to come in and shake things up in season 2, because so much had developed through season 1, and by the end of season 1, essentially those characters have come to some kind of realization of who you know, the secret. They're good friends. They're all going to keep the secret, and now we need to turn that upside down again for season 2. So that was the idea behind Yana coming in. But we definitely did not want a love triangle. So we set out to, you know, create Yana as someone who would come in with another objective. So, of course, through season 2, we discovered that she's actually there for various reasons, which I won't give away in case anyone hasn't seen season 2 yet. But she has an objective of her own. She's not just there to try and get Rydian, although she certainly has some confused feelings for Rydian, some interest there. But so the idea of bringing her and Maddie together through season 2 and making them friends, I think, was really interesting to us. The idea of two characters starting very, very, very opposite. I mean, Maddie and Rydian have been quite opposite in season 1, but this was an even greater gap. And to be able to take two characters who are opposite and bring them together. So yeah, that was the reason.
Oh, go on. Sorry, we have a little bit of lag that happens on Google Plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, come on, what you're gonna say.
So yeah, I mean, so it was really coming into that, not wanting to do the love triangle, wanting to do something different, and not wanting to sort of undercut our female characters, because we're very conscious of being a female-led show, and not wanting to turn these two female characters into just the girls who were fighting over the boy, you know. So that had some element of that as well.
Yeah, you gave them such defined characters, and it's so cool to see that. So I'm going to move on to Shannon and Tom. I want to ask, what made you decide in Series 1 to let them in on the Wolfblood secret? Do you think it changed the show? I personally love that they know. I think it really did change the show for the better. But what was the decision in the writing room?
I suppose it felt that we kind of needed to open that world out a little bit. There's only so long you can go on playing will they find out, won't they find out, I think. And because we'd created Shannon very much as this investigative character, this character who wanted to know what the secret was, what was going on up on the moors, what it was she'd seen in her childhood. If we kept that going too long, we kind of felt that we were undercutting her. We were making her look stupid, really, if she didn't discover within a reasonable length of time what was going on. So there was all of that. And of course, because it happens at the end of Season 1, it allows us to go into Season 2 with a changed situation. Everything is slightly different. So you're looking at different aspects of the characters, slightly different relationships between the characters. Because I guess that's part of what you're always doing when you're writing a series. You're looking back at the past series and saying, okay, well, last series everything was like that. Now we're going to change it. Just a little bit. We want it to be the same show, but it's got to change just enough to stay interesting. So that was really how we kept the show interesting going into Season 2, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. It just, Season 2, I mean, I love Season 1, but Season 2 was, because of Tom and Shannon knowing, was even better. So I'm going to move on to Jay for some more questions.
All right, my next question is actually a bounce-off question from Katz. Now, while Shannon did know about it and Tom knew about it, they both had very different reactions. Normally in shows like this, it's, all right, you're my friend, we give up, you know, we're going to keep your secret, everything is peachy keen, it's right. I love the fact that you kept Shannon wanting to know more, wanting to keep, you know, looking into it and keep it investigating. I love the aspect of it. What was there a decision to be made to keep her going forward with that, or was it like, you know, because it was very true to who she was. Like you said, she's very inquisitive and wanting to know that. Was there like a conscious thing where you said, this is who she is, she has to keep going, and, you know, how it played out? What was the ramifications for it? Did you see it ending at any point, or did you see it going further? What was your thoughts on that, your process?
Yeah, and as you said, it began very much out of Shannon's character. It was this real sense of just knowing wouldn't be enough for her. There's an element of the mad scientist to Shannon. I think she's always wanting to push things a little bit too far, and that's kind of one of the things we love about her, because she just won't allow herself to be stopped. But it is, you know, it is dangerous to an extent, and we wanted to explore that and to put her in situations where she might go a little too far, where she might go beyond the bounds of friendship, and then realize what she's done and realize that friendship is more important. So that sort of underlay a lot of the decisions we were making for Shannon in Season 2. And again, just wanting to explore the character, to push the character a little bit further. And it's always about putting characters in situations where you're testing them, I think, and finding out who they really are by putting them under pressure. And having Shannon in this situation where she knew part of it, but not everything, is almost more infuriating for her than knowing nothing.
I agree. I really got that with her, because that you remain so true to her. Where, like I said, most shows they would have been like, all right, she's a friend, you just stop. Period. You know, you just protect the secret. You don't do anything else. You just protect it. You cover up. So I really like that. My next question is, you also introduced in Series 2 different
Yeah.
Who Polly, what was the name? The I can't think of it right now. The episode where they went to the convenience store and the poppies changed.
Yeah, the poppy seed episode.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I suppose it was wanting to look at the mythology more, because of course if you're going into the area of werewolves, you start to stumble into that area of hunters, and we're one of the few shows that can kind of look at that from the other side. Normally you're telling a werewolf story, you're telling it from the point of view of the people who are trying to kill the evil werewolf. Of course our werewolves aren't evil, so now we can look at it the other way round and say, well, how does the werewolf feel about the hunter? And we wanted to expand some of the minor characters like Liam. We wanted to find more things for them to do. And also it gave us a new sort of source of jeopardy that wasn't just strictly somebody might find out the secret. It was a slightly different kind of fear. Somebody might find out the secret and try to kill us. So again, it was trying to change things up and keep them interesting. And of course there's so much interesting mythology to dig into there. And the idea that Liam was actually so proud about being part of a hunting family was interesting, because of course our main characters were seeing it all very differently.
He saw it as a pride thing. They saw it as a monster, like he was a monster. I really like that flip in it, where werewolves are usually seen as the prideful bunch that sees themselves as the hero, and the humans always see the werewolves as monsters. It was a nice flip to see that other side.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Yeah,
I totally agree with that too. It was so great to see that, because Wolfbloods they see themselves as different than our normal werewolves. So it's kind of cool to see what Jay was just saying. Also, I just want to remind the audience that's watching, you guys can ask questions at Debbie Moon. Also, just don't ask Season 3 questions. You guys can ask about Season 1 and Season 2, and by the end of the show, we'll have them on the show. So just want to remind you guys about that. But let's move on. I actually want to expand onto that question. What made you decide to allow these minor characters from the school, the Kays, Mr. Jeffrey, Liam, Jimmy, to have such a big role in the show, even though they're just humans? What made you decide to really make them true characters? That's what I love about the show, too.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to create even the minor characters to be as good as you can, because, of course, you get better actors that way. The better the character, the more likely it is someone really talented will want to play it. And, we have a fantastic cast, and we want to use them as much as we can. And I think it also gives us much more of the texture of the characters' lives. I mean, when you are a child, you spend a lot of your waking hours at school, and the people you see at school, even the people you're not really close friends with, they're a really big part of your life. So we wanted to reflect that. And of course, characters like the Kays give us comic relief that we don't always necessarily get from the major characters. So if we've got a very heavy episode, we always try to put the Kays in there somewhere with their own little plot, just to lighten things up a little bit. So we've got some contrast there. So yeah, it's just trying to sort of mix things up and to reflect that sort of school life, where you've always got the bullies, you've always got the girly girls. Yeah, and of course the teacher. You've always got to have the teacher who thinks he knows everything that's going on, but actually has no idea what's happening, really. So that's always fun to play.
Yeah, they're all great characters. They all have something special. Even the Kays, I remember the episode where it was the whole forest episode where we're learning more about Liam and the werewolf hunters. I loved the interaction the Kays had with Yana. I thought that was hilarious. That was just one scene I always think about when the Kays are hilarious. Just love that episode. But I'm going to also say, what made you focus so much on humans? Most supernatural shows have no humans. They're lucky enough that they have one human. So what made you focus on having less Wolfbloods, honestly, and have more humans? What made you decide that?
Mm-hmm. I suppose it started off at the beginning because we wanted to keep that sense of fear of the secret coming out. And if they're constantly surrounded by humans, then obviously that becomes a big part of their lives. But also, I suppose it's a kind of a thematic thing. Our producer on the first series, Oz Allen, said something that I thought he summed it up. He said, our best stories are not about being a Wolfblood, and they're not about being a human. They're about where the two halves collide. And if they're constantly surrounded by humans, you know, that kind of brings out the human side of the Wolfblood characters as well. So they're constantly sort of caught on this edge. Should I behave in a situation the way a Wolfblood would or the way a human would? And it's that kind of just being caught on the edge there that really gives us our best stories.
Yeah, I think that's why you don't, I mean, you dig into mythology so much, but I think that's the reason you don't dig too much into it. Again, supernatural shows, sometimes they get too much into themselves, and they forget about those human elements. And I think, like you just said, because there's human surrounding, it's that balance and a balancing act that you do so well in the show. So I'm going to move on to Jay to ask a couple more questions, too.
All right, you introduced two different types of Wolfbloods. You introduced the tamed ones, which is Maddie's, with the wild ones called Maddie's family, and then you introduced the wild Wolfbloods. Will we be seeing any other different types of Wolfbloods? Are there other types of Wolfbloods out there? Like, do you have any? Like, how far have you planned your own mythology?
We don't
without giving away spoilers.
We didn't sit down and sort of plan out 7 seasons of mythology or something at the beginning. We very much wanted to be sort of building on what we had as we went along to see what worked, see what didn't work, that kind of thing. I think there is very much a spectrum kind of in between the very, very tame, very humanized werewolves and the very wild Wolfbloods. So we kind of see people who fetch up at different points in the spectrum. Again, not to give away anything about season 3, but we see another very, very humanized form of life, I suppose, for Wolfbloods in that. We see people living in a way that we haven't seen them living before, which again is quite interesting. So all of these people are kind of fetching up at different points on a spectrum, I suppose, which was quite important to us. We didn't want to say, if you're a human, you live like this, and if you're a Wolfblood, you live like that. We wanted to get a sense that, you know, people are working out their own way to live, which I think is very much what the show is about, whether you're a Wolfblood or anything else. It's about, you know, finding what's good for you and not just, you know, what your traditions and your inheritance say you must do.
And another question is that you introduced Ridian's mother and his brother into the show. And they're very much wild. Was it when you write Ridian, he's always seemed a little bit wild at heart. Even in the very beginning, he wasn't as comfortable being in his own human skin as the rest of the Maddie's pack. So, where did you see that already, like from the very beginning, that you want to make him that outsider, or was it something that just evolved while you were writing it?
I suppose I always thought of him being the outsider character. I mean, he had to be a contrast to Maddie, you know, to make the show work. That first season is very much about the pull between the two of them. The how do you live your life? Do you keep the secret completely and hide, or are you much more open about what you are? So for that to work, obviously they had to be quite opposite. But elements of it, I think, come out of Ridian's character, the fact that he was brought up in foster care and literally didn't know what he was until suddenly one day he changed. Obviously that's going to have a profound effect on you. So, yeah, I mean, it's partly about creating that difference within the show, because you don't want all the characters to be thinking about things the same way. So having someone a lot wilder in there, and of course it creates danger for the show if Ridian's the guy who's not going to listen to common sense, who's going to rush off and do his own thing, then you've got that element of danger in every episode.
I really liked how you balanced that. I really liked how he was that character, because Kat asked me, I was only in a couple episodes, she's like, who's your favorite character? I said Ridian, because he was just that outstanding character to me. He's the one that stood out the most to me.
Yeah, I feel like I truly believe Ridian stands out too.
Yes, I mean, he had to be a character who was an equal Maddie, I think, and who presented a philosophy of life, if you like. Not that he put it that precisely, a philosophy that was different to hers, a way of living that was different to hers. And the two of them,
Challenge.
Exactly, they challenge each other, and neither of them is completely right. Sometimes you need to be a little more wild, sometimes you need to be a little more cautious. So they kind of rub off on each other, I think, which is always interesting.
Now I want to ask, one thing I also, for a reason I think a lot of ages like this show and why it's such a family show, is that the parents are so active in the show. What made you decide to have adults in the show? Because a lot of kid shows make parents stupid, or it's a big trope in kid shows where parents just don't know nothing about what's going on. So what made you decide for them to be so active in the show?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really want to do the thing where the parents are always there spoiling their fun and telling them not to do this and not to do that, although they do that quite a bit, actually. But we wanted to get a sense that Maddie's parents are trying to teach her the way they've always lived because they think it's the right thing to do. We wanted them to be sort of genuine in that. They're not overbearing parents who are trying to bully anybody. They're not bad parents in any way. They're just trying to do their best here, and in many cases they're right. There is real danger in being reckless, in possibly letting the secret out, and we wanted to get that across. We wanted to have parents who weren't wrong all the time. So yeah, and because of course Ridian has no parents, no family apart from the times that we see his wild mother, that sense of having a family there for him to join was really important. So obviously the parents had to be sympathetic and interesting enough to get the sense that he and Maddie and the parents in a way bonding into this little pack of their own, because it's all about packs, it's all about family in the end, I think, about these people who are human and Wolfblood and whatever creating their own little pack.
That actually leads into my next question about the pack. Now, in Season 2, we got to see Shannon and Tom, humans, join the Wolfblood pack. Now, without spoiling anything with Season 3, is that going to be like, maybe, do you think that's a struggle for humans to be in a pack? And, does it work? And why do you think it does work that Shannon and Tom is part of this supernatural pack in a weird way?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a question of how you sort of define the pack. I mean, for us, a pack was always about being family, and it was about loyalty, about caring for each other, much more than about being, the same in any way. And we wanted to create a show that was about people who were very different, sort of learning to like each other, to tolerate each other, to live together in some kind of, meaningful way, whether they were human or Wolfblood or whatever. So that was very much a part of the conception of the show, I think. Because, you always have this separation between werewolves and humans in the traditional werewolf story, and we kind of wanted to break that down and see what happens when you start lumping them together. So that was interesting to us, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to ask 2 more questions. Well, I'm going to allow Jay to ask 2 more questions, and I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then we're going to move on to some questions we have from the comments. So, Jay, what's your next 2 questions?
Bouncing off of the parent thing, you really established early on about Maddie and her mother, their struggle, and you can relate it to animals where you did it with 2 alpha females, but it's also very true with the human nature. Was that, did you draw on anything personal for that, or was it just something that, that exists in both the wild and humanity that you saw that was a connection there? The struggle between a mother and a daughter.
Yeah, I guess because we had a female lead, I was very interested in exploring the idea of how she would relate to another powerful female within that pack. So that was really my point of main interest, and I think that mother-daughter relationship is very interesting. And we see a lot in fiction, I think, of child and father relationships, whether the child is male or female. We tend to see less, good relationships with mothers. So it was something I was interested in doing, partly for the novelty of it. And of course, that idea that they are both the alpha female, and there is this kind of, rubbing off against each other, this slight conflict between them as Maddie starts to mature And it's the kind of thing that you might see in an animal pack where the pup is becoming mature and there's that little bit of conflict, and that's always interesting, of course.
Another thing you did with the parents was you made Maddie's, even though it's Maddie's father's ancestral home that they're in, you made him be as the sort of the free spirit when they first met, because he was into the Aeolus and everything like that, and then the mother grounded him. So my question for you about that is, what made you decide that he was going to be the free spirit one and make the mother the very grounded, we got to follow our rules, this is our way of life, we have to do this?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember back to how this came about. I suppose it was just as a contrast. If we were going to create this very strong female relationship with the mother, then obviously she had to be the one laying down the rules for Maddie to rebel against. And I quite like the idea that the father was going to be very much different to that. And it's that thing when you're a kid, isn't it? You ask your mother and she says no, so you go and ask your father in the hope that he'll say something different. So I wanted to get a situation where that felt very possible, where Daniel was thinking very differently to Emma about things, because it creates a conflict, between them as well. That slight disagreement about what they're doing, which is always interesting.
Did Debbie Moon pause on your side?
Yeah, I think she froze up a little.
Okay. So hopefully we get her back. Sometimes that happens with Google Plus. I'm gonna
apologize to our audience. Apologize to all the viewers.
Oh, there we go.
There she comes. She's back. There you go.
Sometimes that happens. It happens to us a lot.
It's coming back on.
Yes. And as Debbie Moon comes back, you guys could ask more questions. That way we could get those in towards the end of the show.
Am I back?
Hey,
yes,
yeah. Sorry, Google Plus sometimes does that. It's a great thing. Sometimes it does that, but yeah,
it's gone.
For what you're saying, it froze out. It's cool. Might have froze out again.
Are you still with us, Debbie? Alright, we're having some technical difficulties right now with the connection, but
just for the comments.
Just to announce it, that I want to make sure that everyone knows that while this is a British show, it has come to America through Disney Channel, and it's also now on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, season 1 or series 1 is available on Netflix right now. You can go watch it. I highly recommend that you do, because it's a great show. It has a different feel for it than most other werewolf shows out there right now.
Yeah, definitely watch Series 1. It's only like 20-something minutes, so it's really easy to binge. I remember I binged it really quickly. I binged only Season 1. Good?
Yes, we got you back.
Yes, I don't think you're freezing up. I don't think. Maybe you are.
You can hear us, Debbie. Just put up the thumbs up. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Probably not.
It happens
Hopefully
with Google Plus. We apologize for that, and we are coming cross-continental. So.
Yes. So Google Plus is good for some things, but others sometimes.
They're still early. They're still working out their bugs on their end too, because we've seen different versions of Google Plus so far. We're up to like 6 or 7 different updates on this already.
Yeah. But it's cool to get, a live show like this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. We definitely are, just asking some really cool questions about the show. It's pretty cool. But if you guys haven't seen Wolfblood, like Jay was saying, go check out the show. Well, Jay, talk about your experience of binging the show. You binged all 2 seasons. What was your experience of that?
I really liked it. I didn't want to get into season 3 because I'm going to watch it though tonight. I want to start season 3 tonight because there's only 2 episodes in, and the only reason why I didn't do it is because I didn't want to ask questions based on what I've seen on season 3. I want to keep it very grounded in season 1 and season 2. But I really loved it. It was the mythology for me that really drove me into it, and then the characters themselves pushed me.
So defined, I think.
Yeah, it's a different take on everything. Different take on the characters, different take on the mythologies that, as, viewers of werewolf shows, I watch Teen Wolf, Bitten, all that stuff. There's different mythologies in them, and they all kind of have a lot of similarities. I think Wolfblood really separates it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Kat?
For me, I love the aspect. I love teenage shows. I think I've watched every teenage, show that's to do with supernatural things out there. So I'll watch anything. But it's just, I just think it was such an easy show to binge because every episode left you on a cliffhanger also, where you're like, I want to know what happens next. But like we were talking about throughout the whole thing, I love how the minor characters have character. I love that Shannon and Tom are like have the same amount of story as Maddie and Ridian. Same thing for Yana. It's just a really interesting take, in which I will ask when Demi Moon comes back, hopefully. I won't, I love that they only stick with werewolves in a way. Werewolves. It's Wolfbloods, but they only stick with that mythology. And already, it's been 3 seasons, and it still has so much momentum. Other supernatural shows always have to go to the next resort. It's like, oh no, we need another supernatural character. All right, let's bring in these fairies and these vampires. So it's cool to see that. Do you agree with that, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like both aspects, both parts of the spectrum, because I like that this is very much a wolf show, but then there are shows like Teen Wolf that delve into all the other mythologies that I really love too. So I like both aspects of it, and this is something that you don't really get though, because like you said, all the other shows do go into all the other mythologies and stuff, where this one stays grounded in the one, and I really do like that, and I respect that they're so dedicated to just this one thing by doing it as a universal thing where it's, human and wolf blood mixing, and I like how they keep it grounded into that one aspect, and it keeps it easier for you to keep track of who's who and what's what. Some shows you're like, oh, that person is this, why are they? You gotta explain, well, this is because, they were bitten by this. I also like that there's no biting. You can't be turned.
Yeah. I kind of, the one thing, because I'm always a big thing for, I love secret identity stuff, and I love there's that aspect that can be revealed. And honestly, it's one of those shows where you don't know if the secret identity can be revealed. Will one season, let's say season 4, season 5, the world know about Wolfbloods? I feel like that's, the interesting aspect, and how will humans deal with that? Do you think that would happen in the show?
I don't know. I can see it happening because I was thinking the same lines. Like, what happens when a human and a wolf blood, get together? Like, have they ever? Like, that's what I'm thinking,
really
down the road.
One. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I would really like to see that. Sorry.
Debbie Moon messaged me. She said she's trying to reconnect. So hopefully in a few minutes we'll get party started again. And we actually got a good amount of questions too, guys, so keep on coming with those. Again, try not to go into season 3. I see one question going into season 3. I'm only going to do half of that question, so it doesn't spoil anything about the next season. But, asking Jay that now that Debbie Moon's not here for now, we could ask Jay, what would you like to see in season 3?
For season 3?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, there's so much I want to say because I want to see more about. Well, I don't want to spoil the ending for season 2 either, So
well, I think you can,
I
because
want
that
to see.
was last year it aired, so you should be okay.
I want to see where Maddie's family is right now. Like, that's my big question. Like, what is going on with them, and how are people in town reacting to them? And with Ridian being told that, everyone being told that Ridian was a distant cousin, like, how is that going to affect him still being in town?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've already seen 2 episodes, so I'm not gonna say what I want to see with season 3. So, but really excited to see where the season goes. I mean, you haven't witnessed this yet. I've watched season 2 all the way through, but what do you think about the 2-day premieres? Like, it airs Monday and Tuesday, so it's over by like Halloween.
I think it works for a show like this because you want more. When I was watching it, I just kept wanting more and more and more. Even right now, like, I'm itching because I want to watch those 2 episodes that are already aired of season 3, and then I'm going to want more after that. So I like the fact that they're doing it like that.
I just got a message from Debbie Moon. Connecting for a second or two, twice, but can't seem to stay connected. We'll try some more. So she's going to try. I'm going to maybe recommend rebooting it. So hopefully that works.
I want to ask the people who are watching this right now, who's your favorite character in the show right now?
It's actually a good question for us too. We got to actually check that.
All right, Kat. Here's a question. Who was your favorite character in the very first episode? When it first started, that first episode, who did you gravitate more towards?
Probably Maddie, but honestly, my favorite character now is Shannon, which is so weird. I really like her character.
That was going to be the follow-up. Where did it go from there? Like, why did it? What about Shannon made you go from liking Maddie, the lead, to Shannon, a supporting?
I think that's exactly the reason, is that she's a supporting character, but she has so much definition to herself. And honestly, she's a character I've never seen before, of someone that's just so persistent. I've really never seen that character on television. So it's really cool to see that. And honestly, I love Tom and Shannon's antics in a way. Like, you could tell it's just the 2 actors, like, just playing off each other. But when they do these silly things in different scenes, when they're, poking fun at Ridian liking Maddie, like, those little moments. So I really like that chemistry that, again, I haven't really seen in a TV show. I just think it's kind of quirky in a way. How about you, Jay? What do you think?
Mine has always been Ridian. I don't know why. I mean, I like Shannon. I think is probably my second or third favorite, but Ridian, I just really like that. He's trying to come into it. He's trying to be true to himself, and he's walking that line because he's got the human side pulling at him with Maddie and her family, and then he has the wild side with his family pulling at him, and in the middle he's trying to be true to who he is, which is both. I think he's the most balanced between the two, the wild and the tamed, if you want to call them that. Between the wild and the tamed, he's the most balanced, and I think that's why I gravitate towards him the most. He's found that balance, even with the Eolas. He didn't go crazy with it, And the mother asked him why. Like, you can see that the wild people are a little crazy. The wild.
Oh yeah, they definitely are crazy.
I mean, even his mother, like, just the way her eyes are, like, wide all the time. She has that mad woman look to her.
Well, saying that, isn't it interesting how Yana was that wild creature who had such a, once she blended into this human non-wild Wolfblood, she just became a great leader because of it. What do you think? Or can become a great leader because of it. What do you think of that, like, mesh of her going into the real world and changing as a character?
I liked it because I think it shows you that more where Maddie's family is not right. They're saying you have to be this way. This is the way you have to be. Her and Ridian and Yana's pack are saying this is how you have to be. they're not right. I think Ridian and Yana have discovered that you have to embrace both sides in order to do it. You have to run wild when you're the wolf, and then you gotta rein it in when you're a human, and you have to be both, because you're not just a wolf. You're not a wolf, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are also human. You have a human side to you, and you have to be both. And I think that's what they've discovered, and that's what makes Yana that bridge character between the two. Because you've seen her, she was born wild, she lived wild, but now she's learning what Ridian has known instinctually, almost.
Mm-hmm. Very true. What do you think about the minor characters, like Liam, the Kays? I personally love the Kays. I want to see more with the Kays. I love Mr. Jeffries. I think he's really cool. But what do you think about those minor characters?
I love the Kays, and I love that Shannon used to be like friends with Kay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kara. Her and her. They were really close growing up, and then something happened, and Shannon became obsessed with the beast. She became obsessed with that. So I really like that. Even though they're totally different characters now, at one point Shannon could have been a K. It would have. Well, they wouldn't have called the K's then. But Shannon, maybe they would have just called Shannon by her last name. Because she is a K by last name, not by first name, but by last name she is a K. So she might have been a K who they just called Kelly, instead of calling Shannon Kelly. She might have just been called Kelly. And I thought that, that I think I would now that I'm talking about it, I would really like to see like an alternate story where Shannon was a K.
I would like to see
she's
that
not
too,
that
now.
girl who she never met the beast.
Yeah, let's get this happening. Hopefully, Debbie Moon watches this after, and she'll have some ideas for an alternate universe type episode.
Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe she just wakes up one day after hitting in her head or something.
Or she gets not poisoned, but she gets like some gas or something. Someone throws it at her, and Shannon thinks she's a K for some reason. But it will work out. This has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that connection that she established, that she was, she was in with the K's before she became, the freak in school. That outsider girl.
Yeah. What was your favorite season? Season 1 or season 2? That's a hard one.
I would say season 2. I would say season 2.
Also.
Only because I think they got more into other aspects of it. We got to see Shannon struggling with doing the right thing. We got to see Ridian struggling with, am I a Wolfblood? Am I wild? Am I tame? What am I? And we got to see Yana really explore her humanity, something she's never done before. She's never had that, whole humanity thing. She's never been it. But at the same time, she remains true to her old ways. She does the ritual for the found body of the ancestor, so it's buried and joins the one pack in the afterlife. So I really like that. So I think that's why I liked it. Why did you like
I would say Yana in general was just a really great addition. I think that Shannon and Tom knowing made the season a lot better too, because it wasn't like what Debbie Moon was saying previously. It wasn't like if would they, won't they find out thing, where it was like it was kind of like making not Shannon makes feel stupid, because I think she didn't know for a good period of time, and it didn't make her feel stupid at all. But I think if it did go for another season, it'd be like, why didn't Shannon know we're best friends of Wolfblood? So yeah, I do like the idea that they knew. I just made the connection between Ridian and Maddie and that whole group just made the show better. Let's see. Hopefully we get this.
I think I'm back.
Yes, you're back.
It seems like it's working. It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks good. I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear you.
we can.
It's perfect. We were just talking about
And we see
Wolfblood.
you
We
moving,
were
so
wanting
we're-
alternate worlds of Shannon being a K. We are digging into a couple of things.
Missed all the good stuff.
Oh yeah, it all stemmed from me saying that, you know, I liked how Shannon used to be in with the K's when she was younger until she went into the Beast stuff. And I said I would really like to see her maybe in an alternate world, something alternate, you know, timeline,
Yeah.
or even like her getting hit in the head and forgetting something and becoming one of the K's for a while. Since her last name is Kelly, which begins with a K, she is technically, she could be a K.
Just for one episode.
Maybe one day. Maybe we should.
But yeah, so Jay was, what was your last question? Then we'll go into my 2 questions, and then we'll get into some audience questions, which we actually got a lot, so I'm excited to dig into those. So guys, if you have more, definitely go through it. But Jay, what was your last question?
Well, I want to actually change it now because I want to ask it about Shannon and the K's. What was your decision? Did you have a thought process of having Shannon be that, having that, you know, like almost life-altering situation right there, like where she would have been one person if not for the Wolfbloods? If it wasn't for the Wolfbloods, she would have been this one person.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really a conscious thing we started out with. It was kind of, we came up with the idea that, oh yeah, she saw a Wolfblood when she was a child. And we didn't really think very much about the consequences until we started digging into it in scripts, and suddenly we realized this is a really big thing. This has changed her life, you know. So it wasn't that we set out to give her this life-defining experience. It's just that there was something we wanted to happen for the show to motivate her. And
which is something that really happens.
We realized that it had these consequences for her. So it kind of all grew in a way that we weren't expecting it to.
Cool.
So my 2 questions that I'm going to dig into are, the first question I want to ask is, what made you decide for, you know, all 2 seasons to just focus on Wolfbloods and not go into other supernatural creatures, which I'm happy you did, because, again, a lot of shows do not do that. They go into all these different supernatural creatures. So what made you decide just to focus on Wolfbloods? And it seems like you guys still have so much story to explore with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanted to stick to one thing and do it well, rather than trying to do a lot of... I mean, there are shows that do many different supernatural creatures and do them really, really well, but we wanted to keep it simple and just to sort of explore what we had and to sort of resist that temptation. Let's put this in, let's put that in. But rather than doing that, rather than making the world bigger, we kind of wanted to dig down into the world and find out what was going on under the surface and who the characters really were, I guess.
So my last question before we go into audience questions is, if you could write an American TV show that's going on right now, which one would it be?
There's a few, but I would have to plump for Agent Carter.
That is a great pick.
Oh,
wow.
cool.
I would very happily run across the Atlantic and write for Agent Carter, even though we haven't seen it yet. But I think it has so much potential as an idea.
It's a strong female lead.
Yeah,
again, I can definitely see you writing that.
Well, who
Wait,
knows?
you
Who
write
knows?
the strong female lead.
Yeah, I mean, I love that pick, especially for us. We're Comic Frontline. We love comic books and television, so that's just a great mix there.
Yeah, it's a great time for comic book television, I think. Lots of really interesting shows being made.
Very much so.
That's something that we focus a lot on Media Madness is comic book television, because, again, we started out our channel just for comic books. That's how we all started out here, but we delved into television, too. So it just shows how much superheroes are going into different media. But that will be a whole nother podcast that one day we would love to talk to you about. But we're going to move into some audience questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's some people that ask Series 3 questions. Guys, we can't go into that, but we will go into stuff that are just, you know, plainly about the show. So keep going with the questions. This is from Helena Radzin. Did you always envision Maddie and Ridian developing romantic feelings for each other, or did you want to keep them just friends for as long as possible?
We always felt that this was going to be a romantic relationship. I think because they're kind of at that time in their lives where you have that first great love, you know, and we wanted to explore that. So, but on the other hand, we didn't want the show to become too much about their romance. So I think we were quite careful, certainly through the first season, to
Yes.
play it quite lightly. So it was always under the surface, but we weren't really doing a lot of big romantic stuff. And because we are technically a show for quite young children, we don't want to go too much into, you know, what they would perceive as being the sloppy stuff. So we were playing it very much as a friendship that has this underlying emotion. So it was kind of a balance between the two. But yes, it was always intended that there would be this developing romantic relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you do a really great thin line with that. Now, Jay, do you have the questions up too? Because we could switch on and off if you want.
Yeah.
Cool. So you could do the next one.
All right. On relationships, Shannon and Lolo, and I'm only going to ask part of this because part of it goes into season 3. It says, how was it like to have a love interest for Shannon in season 2?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was something we really wanted to do with Shannon because she starts off as quite a nerdy character in a way. She's the one with the science, and you know, she's not the obvious girl to go out and have a relationship. And we wanted to see, you know, what it would be like for her to have that first relationship, that first sort of dating, and the singing kind of unlocked a way for that to happen. I think that was quite interesting. So yeah, that was a really interesting development for her, and I think for Louisa, the actress, really enjoyed sort of doing that. So it's all about the increasing maturity of the characters, I think.
I also want to applaud you for the singing because a lot of American shows, and I've said this before on our show, the American teenage shows, it's almost like a platform for like. You see, like, they're written just so they can launch their music career. This I felt more natural. It was just like, you know, this is an aspect of who she is. She's not, you know, I didn't feel like you were trying to sell a record for, you know, the actress. I felt like it was a natural progressional story. So I really want to applaud you and your show for that because at the time, right now, especially American television, it's all about trying to get to that next level, that next, you know, thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we came at it from the idea of it being something Shannon hadn't thought she could do, it plays very differently. I think, you know, a lot of the American shows are very much about kids who want to be singers. Shannon never grew up thinking, I want to be a singer. Suddenly this thing kind of happened and everybody said, you have a brilliant voice. So we kind of came at it from a different angle, I think.
So the next 2 questions is from Scotty Showman. So I'll start with the first question, then X the second. All episodes are meaningful in their own way, but there are episodes that are extra rewarding and special for you. So between season 1 and 2, what was that episode for you?
Oh wow. Let me think. I really enjoyed the episode actually where they go to Lindisfarne and Maddie has her first transformation. That was a good, because I wrote that once and it was a really enjoyable episode to do. We were quite sure when we started the show that we didn't want Maddie to already be transforming, that Ridian had, you know, got there a little before her, because we wanted to explore that process of what it was like to reach maturity, to transform for the first time. So we held that back till episode 5. So it was really interesting to be able to write that and to match it up with this plot where Shannon and Tom think something is up and are kind of trying to find out the secret at the same time. So it was that was a really good episode to write. I think I really enjoyed writing that one.
Yeah, it was definitely a thrilling episode because you had that Shannon thing going on at the same time, and that was a good thing about season 1 that they didn't know, because you do have that tension. So the next question from Scotty Showman is there a nice story that you can reveal within the cast to happen in between scenes?
The thing is, I'm not on the set all of the time, so I expect I've kind of missed out on all the fun things. I know the cast had a lot of fun. I think probably they had the most fun running around in the woods because, of course, the Wolfblood actors are just running around like crazy people in the woods, falling down hills and doing ridiculous things. So that was probably the most fun they had, particularly in wet weather and the snow. We had a lot of snow fall while we were filming in season 2, which you can see in some shots, and the poor actors were sliding about in the snow. So that was probably the best stories were involved there. There may have been a little bit of strong language and things when they fell down hills in the snow, but yes.
So there are, I guess, 2 more questions. So I'm going to get Jay to do the other one, and then I'll do the last one. So Jay, what's the next question?
Okay.
The Story Girl Secret says, when you met Amy, Bobby, Louisa, and Kedar, I hope I pronounced this name correctly, did you instantly feel like they were... Excuse me? I'm sorry.
It's Kedar.
Kedar? Okay.
As if there was one Kedar.
All right. I'm a stickler for trying to pronounce names correctly. When you met them, did you feel like they were the right person instantly to play the character, or did they grow on you? Like, how was it with those people and those roles? Did you instantly say, yeah, that's them, or was it a growth process?
Yeah, I mean, the first I saw of them, really, I saw the filmed auditions that they'd done. They were sent to me, and then I went out to meet them a few days later for the read-through for the first few episodes, which is when we get all the actors together for the first time. So obviously I saw the auditions and, you know, felt these are great actors, they will do a really good job. But actually walking in the room with them, that's the moment where you think, yes, you know, these are the characters. As the kids in your head, but that's the important part. There's kind of something about the character, and you just see an actor and you think, yes, they've got that thing. You can't even define it. And I felt really for all of them, there was something in them that was just right for those characters. So yeah, I was very, very happy when I first saw them, you know, in the flesh, that they were the right people for the job.
And I'm guessing as a writer, it's just cool to see your story just come to life in a way, and just like see every episode, and then, you know, have the actors to just play your characters. It's really cool. Yeah,
absolutely. And the actors bring so much to the script. You know, you put everything that you can into a script to try and create the characters in the world, and then they'll just pronounce a line differently, or they'll have a certain look on their face, and it adds so much more than you knew was in there. So of course they're just adding new layers to your story, which is brilliant.
Before Kat gets to the final viewer question, I want to just bounce off of that last question, because you brought up that they're different than some of them were different than how you envision them in your head. Who was the most different, do you think, how you originally envisioned them in your head to how they are currently?
That's a good question. Maybe Louisa, who plays Shannon, who, you know, obviously is kind of the nerdy girl, but is actually a very, very pretty young actress. So I suppose I'd imagined her being a little bit nerdier, but I think it's quite interesting, you know, that then the nerdy girl can be pretty as well. Why not, you know? So yeah, I mean, the idea you have of a character in your head is sometimes quite vague. It's more sort of a sense of impressions than a real sort of sense of what they look like. But and you have to leave room for, you know, the best actor to come along and fill that role. And I think we have a fantastic cast, really.
Totally agree. I love the cast. I love the portrayal of the characters. So we're going to go into the last viewer question, which I think you're going to easily answer this one. Do you ever plan for the show to be in America on TV? Which I'm pretty sure it's already in America, right?
Yes. Season 1 has been shown by Disney. Season 2 should be being shown fairly soon, but I don't have dates. So feel free to contact Disney and say, please show it, because then maybe, you know, give them a little push.
And you also have Netflix now.
Yes, great. Yes, season 1 is on Netflix. Season 1 is also available on DVD, and I think season 2 will be out by the end of the year on DVD. So it is out there. Go and see it.
Again, I want to expand on a question that our viewer's question. Would you be interested at all in writing an American adaptation of this? Because a lot of shows we've got, currently we've gotten shows from other countries that we've adapted into Americanized show. Would you be interested into writing a show based on Wolfblood and translating it into for American audiences?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that anyone would do that because you kind of have Teen Wolf already, and I don't know whether there's more overlap. But yeah, theoretically, if somebody said, yes, we want to make an American version of Wolf, I think I'd be very interested in, being involved, certainly with the first series or two. And what would be interesting for me, I think, would be to work out how it would be different if it was an American show. Because obviously it's such a British show, such an English show. It's about the English countryside, about English traditions. And finding out what the equivalent would be in America, I think, would be quite interesting to me. So, yeah, if that was to happen, I'd very much be interested in doing that, yeah.
And just for the record, I would like to state that I think there is a room for that type of a show in America, even with Teen Wolf. I definitely think there's a place for it because Teen Wolf, I think, tends to be a little bit more older and more drama, where Wolfblood is a little bit more family-oriented.
They are very different shows in many ways, of course. They take a very different approach to things.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if we had like San Francisco, because I mean you can't really do the city thing, but you have like the redwoods, and that'd be kind of cool. But just a different American thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what I'm picturing.
The advantage you have, of course, is that you actually have wolves, where we don't have wolves in Britain, not wild wolves. So that would add another dimension again.
I think it would be really interesting, especially with all these British shows turning into American shows. We've seen it. I think this season we're having Grace Point, which was a British show, which I don't know the actual name of the British show, but.
Yeah, it's an interesting process how shows flow backwards and forwards across the Atlantic and change. So who knows if anybody out there wants to do an American version of Wolfblood, you know where to find me.
If you don't mind, I have one final question for you. I wanted to ask you: is you made Wolfbloods where they're born Wolfbloods? Now, have you ever given any? And without giving away any spoilers, any process of a Wolfblood and a human maybe, joining together, or why you didn't go down the route of a bite can turn you?
Yeah, I suppose we wanted to do something. We wanted to get away very much from that sense of sort of being cursed with something you didn't want. So it felt to us that if you were born Wolfblood, it was a part of your nature. It was not something that had been done to you in the way that being bitten by a werewolf was. So I guess that was our main interest in it. So yeah, we've kind of flirted with the idea that there may be ways of becoming Wolfblood-like. There's a potion that Shannon takes in an episode in season 2 where she starts to develop some Wolfblood-like powers. She doesn't literally become Wolfblood, but so yeah, we might look into things like that in the future, perhaps. But it was very much part of the conception that this was, very much a part of the characters. It was who they were, rather than something that had been done to them.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea. I mean, again, I don't know if you're planning this, but what Jay was saying, I kind of like the idea of like a human/Wolfblood hybrid, where it's like, do they inherit the gene or don't they? If human and a Wolfblood mate, Yeah,
seeing a parent be like nervous.
Yeah, this is one situation we haven't yet looked at. I think is what would happen in a Wolfblood human relationship. So that's maybe something for season 4. Who knows? If there were a season 4, which there might be, but then there might not.
Well, let's hope. I would love to see that. And if Jay, do you have any other questions, or do you think we should wrap it up?
No, I have no more questions right now.
Cool. Thank you so much for being on the show. We had such a fun time talking about it. Again, we love the show. We hope to have you on again for another show in the future.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. I'm glad you had a good time. So, guys, this was Media Madness. We'll talk about the future Media Madness episode. Probably will be Thursday night, like our usual time. But me and Jay still have to talk about the topic. So just probably watch us on Frontline Live on Tuesday, and we'll probably have the topic by then. If not, just follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And, of course, Debbie Moon, do you have any places you would like to be followed? That way people could check out your stuff.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter as Debbie B. Moon. And if you Google Never Get Off the Bus, which is the name of my blog, you can also, there's a Wolfblood FAQ and various Wolfblood information there, and I also talk a lot about screenwriting.
That's awesome. Yeah, so be sure to check that out. We'll have those links in the description below once this uploads. And guys, even if this is not live, be sure to comment, and me and Jay will answer those comments. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.